Well, thank you guys for joining. I know this was kind of short notice, but we can go ahead and get started. I do see a few students that are joined us in this call. And so I just wanted to kind of create a space where people could pop in and out and ask questions about, what's college like during COVID, and, get some of those questions that they have answered here. And so maybe initially we could just go around and, introduce who we are, what we do, and maybe some changes we've noticed in our offices, particularly with COVID. I Maybe we can start, Dwayne and I. My name is Chelsea Grosclose. I'm one of the counselors here at the center, and I started right as COVID was starting. So it's been kind of a wild ride, but most of my experience here has been entirely the COVID experience. So we've been doing primarily telehealth, and that's actually been going really well. We've had a few in-person sessions, but most of them have been telehealth. So we're trying to meet people's needs through the summer as well. And so we did have quite a few people still on our calendars over that time. We did implement a stress and depression questionnaire. So that's given students an opportunity to correspond with us anonymously, which has been really nice for us to get connected to people that maybe wouldn't normally get connected with us. And so that was also on the flyer that, for those of you that are in here, we also have our Facebook page that you can find that at, and probably all over Facebook and all over campus at this point. So
I'll just jump in quick. I'm Dwayne. I'm director of the Counseling Center. As Chelsea mentioned, we've been trying to be very active in the last few months. I started in January, just a few weeks before COVID took over. So like I said, we made that quick transition to telehealth. We will continue to do that, both for the safety of the students and our community, but also for our staff. We just want to make sure we're giving people the opportunity to get services they need. Our thought on this is we really want to continue this forum and probably have it develop more with specific points maybe, but for today, just give students a chance to come in and say, I don't know what to do about this, or what should I think about this, and have some people available to answer those questions. We also look at this as an opportunity for us to find out what we don't know. So if there's something that maybe we need to be addressing, this is the group of people, at least from student development, can go, you know what, let us go back and we'll decide or think about this. And Lisa from academics, that we can go back and say, oh, you know what, we hadn't thought about that. We'll take a look and we'll get back to you on it. So, but we really do want to give you a chance to ask questions. Chelsea, I think just for the best part of people introducing themselves, you might want to just call on them. Otherwise, nobody knows who's gone and not gone, and
sure.
Probably make it easier.
Sure. Mary Jo, would you like to go next?
Okay. Let me unmute myself.
Yeah, you actually muted yourself, Mary Jo.
Oh, you were unmuted before.
Just if you push the space bar, Mary Jo.
And there we go. Okay, hello. My name is Mary Jo, and I've been here at the college about 15 years. We had a young man die of an alcohol overdose, and the dean of students decided to start a program helping people deal, with various problems, particularly associated with alcohol at that time. And what we found since COVID is that as a general thing, across the United States, is that more people are drinking. And I think it's, staying home and not being able to go out and socialize so much. And so drinking, has been more widespread than normal. And so that may be a factor that will happen. And so basically, Linda, who's at the meeting here too, and I are here to help students that maybe have, some issues related to drugs or alcohol, and if they want to talk about that, they can, and coming through the counseling center. And I've worked with a lot of students that have gotten DUIs or MIPs, and so I'm available to help with that. And so I just, wish you a very happy semester. I know it's a real strange one. Well, none of us are going to forget 2020. So thank you.
Linda, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I'm Linda, and I'm with the Alliance for Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition in Rapid City, and have been working with the School of Mines and Western Dakota Tech and OLC and the University Center for over 15 years doing prevention. And as Mary Jo said, we're kind of resources for the campuses for drug and alcohol prevention, and willing to help and partner and provide whatever assistance we can.
Thank you, Linda. Lisa, would you like to go next?
Sure. So my name is Lisa Carlson. I'm the Director of Student Success here. And the Student Success Center looks a lot different than it did pre-COVID. And so we're located just in the upper level of Surbeck. And you used to have a really comfy couch that we had to take away in lieu of some more study spaces. But we still have just as many resources. They just look a little bit different this year. So we always have quiet study spaces and coffee. I think that the biggest thing that's changed is that we used to have popcorn that we served every week, and we haven't started that yet. I don't know how that's going to look during COVID. And so we have tutoring options still this semester. Again, they just look a little bit different. So we will have some drop-in tutoring in the ballroom on Tuesday and Thursday and Sunday nights. Sorry about that dinging. And then we also have partnered with an online peer tutoring platform called NAC, where students can make appointment sessions for tutoring, either for online or in person with tutors. And so again, a lot of things just look a little bit different, but we're still here to support students in whatever way we can.
Thank you. Matt, would you like to go next?
Sure. So my name is Matt Hanley. I'm with the Career Center. We're doing kind of a hybrid approach this year. We're still meeting students face-to-face who would like to meet face-to-face. And then we're also meeting with students via Zoom as well if they're more comfortable with that. So whatever a student prefers, we're still available and happy to meet with them. We are doing all our workshops online via Zoom for this semester. We had our first one last night, and then we have our Interviewing 101 tonight. So please join us for those.
Amanda, would you like to go next?
Sure. Well, I want to start out. Thank you, Chelsea and Dwayne, for getting all this set up. I know there's a lot of work that goes into this, so thank you guys. Excuse me, my name is Amanda Lopez, and I'm the Title IX and Disability Coordinator. I've been with School of Mines just over a year. My office is located in Surbeck, down the hall from the bookstore, right by Student Health. And my experience with COVID specifically is more on the accommodation side. So when we work with students, and we have students who have physical, intellectual, psychiatric, and learning disabilities, my role is to work with them to determine reasonable accommodations. And with COVID, sometimes that looks a little bit different, and we have to think outside the box. So some of the things that we've been looking at are accommodations to our face covering protocols, preferential seating for those with health impairments, some flexibility with assignment due dates and things like that.
Thank you. What about Corey? Would you be willing to go next?
I would be happy to. So hello, everyone. My name is Corey Headley, and I'm the Director of Student Engagement here at Mines. For those that may be returning students, that is really a change from the Slice office historically. So we're located in the lower level. In our office, we work with student success with regards to the new students coming in and the mentoring program. But we also oversee fraternity and sorority life, all of our student organizations on campus, and the Surbeck Center Student Union. And I think for us, probably the biggest piece that COVID is impacting is how we're helping students make connections with each other on campus and getting involved, right? So historically, we've we've had a lot of huge events that we usually have in the fall semester that due to COVID-19, they've either been canceled, or as we look in the next few weeks as we're getting ready for homecoming, homecoming itself is going to look very different this year. And so we're just trying to keep students engaged because it's going to be a long road, obviously, if we're studying all the time and not having as much of that connection as we've been in the past. So we're really here to help students make that connection to, maybe it's some of our over 100 student organizations, or however we can help them just feel that they're a part of the Minds community.
Thank you. Bryce, would you like to go next? I don't see him. There he is.
Computer is really struggling on this. My name is Bryce Nussbaum. I work in residence life and community standards. COVID has very much changed how residence life has approached programming, as well as just the day-to-day operations that we try to get for our first year returning students. So this year, very specifically, RAs are working in a 2-to-1, 1-to-1 model with every one of the students. We're asking for smaller cohorts where you're still getting connected, but you're not getting connected to in a giant community. You may be getting connected to your roommate and the people across the hall. And then we're trying to make that a strong connection so that it lasts the entire experience that you have at Minds. On the other side, my job has to do with the conduct. And so when people are having issues with mask violations or mask policy, I would be a person that is helping adjudicate and hold students accountable to that entire process.
Thank you. Let's see, Susie. Susie, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Susie Ablin. I'm the director of the Ivanhoe International Center. So we work with all international students and also with students who are planning to go abroad or have an international experience. And so that's our area. We're located in the lower level of Surbeck, right next to Corey. And so, yeah. Anyway, so our differences this year, of course, visa offices were shut down worldwide, and so we've seen significantly fewer numbers of international students coming in this fall, primarily because they couldn't get visas. We're also seeing this affect our students who are planning to do a study abroad or international experience, and so those are limited right now. We're cautiously hopeful for spring, but we don't know for sure. And so we're still keeping an eye on that.
Thank you. Beth, would you like to go next?
So hello, I'm Beth Reilly. I'm the assistant director for the Ivanhoe International Center. Susie basically said all of the struggles that we are dealing with at the moment. I am located right next to Susie's office. You'll see big signs that say Beth is this way and with big arrows, so you'll be able to find me, but I am actually right next to Susie's office.
Thanks, Beth. Diana, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Diana Eastman. I'm the registrar in the registrar's office. We're located over in O'Hara, just the main floor when you're walking up the big steps. We're the second office on your right. We deal with all sorts of registration issues. If you have any questions about adding or dropping classes, or if you were curious about transferring classes in, any types of things like that. We're also your go-to for FERPA questions, which is the student privacy. So if you have any questions about that, you can definitely reach out to us. Some things that have changed a little bit with COVID is we are trying to limit the interaction within our office. So we have a link on our website where you can book a virtual appointment with us, and we can do that over Zoom or over phone. And then all of our forms or any type of student-related things that you would normally get from our office are all online now. So everything should be able to be submitted online. We, of course, will still welcome visitors in the office, but we're just trying to limit how many come in the office.
Sure. Thank you.
Can I do a quick follow-up on that? My apologies. I forgot to mention, we also have the online scheduling system. So we're doing both Zoom and in person as well as online.
Thank you for adding that. Jessica, I know you said you were going to join with, possibly with your director as well. So I just wanted to give the floor to you as well so you could introduce yourself.
I'm not seeing that she's got a mic on. I'm not sure if she's hooked up appropriately, so we may not be able to get her in.
Let's see. Oh wait, it says connecting to audio.
There we go. Yep.
Well, maybe we can move on to Pat. Pat, would you like to introduce yourself while we wait for her to connect?
Sure. Dean Mann, and here to be an advocate for students and help you where you need. And there's a lot of resources on here today, so I won't take a lot of time introducing myself, but if you have any questions, more than happy to address them.
Thanks, Pat.
I think Jess is on now.
Okay.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, well, I'm Jessica Daigle, and I'm the Director of Ambulatory for the Monument Health Urgent Cares here in Rapid City, and we provide your student health services on campus. And with me is Dr. Thane Gale, who's our Medical Director, and then Erin O'Connell, who's our Nursing Manager. And we're just here today to answer any questions that you have. Really, as far as any change in our operations, the biggest change this year is that students are going to need an appointment to come in for social distancing, but otherwise, we're going to do the best we can to accommodate any healthcare needs that you have.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I would like to, well, first of all, did I miss anybody? I don't think I did. We're good. I would like to, we already have a question in the chat. This person would prefer to stay anonymous, but they do have a question about their son in regards to, the question says, my son's a new freshman and I worry that he's not getting involved enough. He's already said he wants to change his major and or join the military. I can't tell if it's freshman blues or something more. Suggestions? I don't think he's getting out there and making friends. So it's been kind of challenging for this individual. And so something, that popped in my head as we were going through this was, it might be good to get connected with, today we had the org fair, for example. There were lots of students out there, a good way to get connected that way. But there are still ways to get connected on campus that are out there. So maybe I could hand this one to Corey.
Sure. And then, Bryce, maybe you can talk a little bit about that connection with cohorts as well. So as Chelsea said, yeah, we ended our 4th day of our org fair today. And so we had about 70 or so of our 120 different student organizations that we have on campus. And so those are really great ways for students to connect. Pretty much every academic department on campus has at least one organization that is tied directly to them. And so that really just helps everything that's happening in the classroom really connect those dots. We do have a website that students can connect to directly off of the main Minds website. If they scroll all the way to the bottom of the home page, they'll see a little area that says student organizations. And if they just click on that link, that's going to open our Minds link portal. And they sign into that portal with their username and password that they use on their tablet PC. And that's really where all of our student organizations are housed. You can look at their web pages. It's really easy to join organizations from there. You can find those contacts. We'll be working with them again to do some additional virtual fairs throughout the year. But we really are looking as a university to those student organizations to really be doing a lot of the programming. And like I said, there's really something for everyone. But we also have the ability to help students start organizations if there's not a group that's there that they're interested in. And so they can always come see me. My office is in the lower level of Surbeck, and I would be happy to help connect them.
And then this weekend, Corey, they can do some things?
Yeah, so, and this is on in the weekly WhatsApp that gets sent out to students on Fridays as well. So that highlights a lot of events that are happening for students, but there are several organizations this weekend between Friday evening through Sunday that are doing a variety of events. Circle K, D-Man, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're on Sunday, but they're doing a service project.
1 o'clock.
Yep. Our unmanned aerial systems, they're going to be doing some flight stuff, our mine safety group. So those are great ways to connect with those groups. And then as Bryce talked really about those residence hall cohorts, those are great ways, because it's not always easy to go to something by yourself, right? Or to make that first step. And I do think that those residence hall cohorts can kind of help with that. And their RAs specifically are great resources to help get them connected to campus.
Bryce, did you want to add anything about RAs in particular?
Yeah, so what I would tell to any first year parent or student, you have an automatic peer anytime you enter into a residence hall, and that is your RA. So if you're questioning whether or not that first welcome or hello is the hardest thing you've ever experienced, they're the person who can help you do that, because it's their job to help you make that transition, or your students make that transition. If online is an easier kind of interaction for a lot of our students, all of the RAs have invited or are in the process of inviting your student to an online platform as well, whether that's Snapchat or Discord or even a Spotify. That's a platform where you can say, hey, is anybody else going to dinner today? Is there a way for me to make that first jump? And honestly, that's where once they do that first time, it gets a lot easier. And if no other reason, asking the roommate, if they have a roommate, do you want to get dinner tonight? And everybody needs to eat, and you all have your mouths already being filled with food. So it's not like you have to have a lot of conversation, but it's that first step for that student.
Yeah. And then I would add one other resource. Is all incoming new students also have a first year mentor. And so that's housed out of our Student Success Center, but they are great resources to, one, answer questions about stuff that's going on in class or study groups. And, you know, they've all been here and have led organizations or have been involved either, but they are also a great touch point for those students.
I would also add, you know, that there are times, you know, that the counseling center can be available. You know, you don't have to be struggling with depression or anxiety. It may just be, you know, how do I break the ice? We have counselors who can help you just make that first connection, or maybe you don't even know where to go. We can help you there as well. So
there was a comment of, you know, do the mentors and RAs reach out, or is it on the student to initiate that contact?
So I can jump in on the mentor side. So the mentors will have already met with their mentees during that in-person orientation. So they already had a chance, about a day and a half, to get connected and acquainted, and then make plans for the rest of the semester. However, the mentors will also reach out continuously throughout the semester, just to make sure that their mentees are getting involved, or they'll organize events for them. I think that it's going to look a little bit different this year, but mentor groups are small enough. I think our largest mentoring cohort is about 10 people, 10 to 12 people. And so they're small groups by nature. And so those mentors will definitely keep engaging first year students to do things and get involved with them.
Thank you.
In the same vein, RAs have met with every single room and roommate pair already. And so there should be a connection to that student, to that RA. And the RAs have either bi-weekly or weekly get-togethers every week. And so they should be invited to those as well.
Thank you. Amanda posted, a question I received from a parent is if Mines is partnering with any sponsors in the community for outside events. What is the university's take on our students being off campus, where there were a few COVID precautions being taken?
Sure. So I can start with that. You know, I think as students come, they're a part of the campus community, but they're also, you know, greater Rapid City community members. And so we do want to try to connect them to Rapid City as much as possible. So with regards to my office, a few things that we've done. So last week, for example, we had a free bowling night at Robbinsdale Lanes. And so the individual who owns is an alum, and, you know, and so I had a conversation with him specifically, right? And just say, you know, we want to encourage our students at least to be wearing masks as much as possible, but we extended hours so that we were limiting the amount of people there at one time. Similar when we work a lot with one of our local ice cream shops called Armadillos. And, historically, we would probably have a huge line going downtown for students, but we've been working with that business to do gradually working with things over a certain amount of time. And so I think it's about any time that we're doing that, that's something that's officially sponsored. It's about having a conversation with those business owners and how can we work together to keep our students safe, but also community safe. But then I think we're trying to give our students as many resources and things that, if you're going hiking in the hills or you're going to go see a movie at the local theater, I mean, taking it amongst themselves to really look how those businesses are taking precautions and what do they need to do personally to help keep themselves safe.
Thank you. Thank you. In terms of questions, we can open the floor for additional questions as well, either through the chat box or if you want to virtually raise your hand, that's all right too. And while we're waiting for additional questions to come in, I also just wanted to get everybody's perspective on what they've been seeing most, like what questions have, Amanda had posed that question, but what other questions are coming in from your guys' perspectives with students?
Yeah, I'll jump in, Chelsea. I think one of the things that I'm seeing, with both the students we were seeing over the end of the COVID, end of last semester in summer, and now as we go into the new semester is just, how do we deal with the unknown? And I think that's a big piece that we really struggle with. Chelsea and I met with the coaching staff yesterday, and how even with the athletes, how do I plan? They're used to such a structured environment. And I think that is a big piece that students need to realize is that the unknown is probably one of the most difficult things we'll ever deal with because you can't plan, you can't predict what's going to happen. But at the same time, you can chart multiple courses. You know what? I'm going to go in this direction and, I'm going to make some plans, but I'm going to have some backup plans. So if the bowling falls through at Robbinsdale, maybe we'll go to Taco John's and grab some supper. And I think, students in particular at their age are so adaptable. So I think being smart, that's the biggest thing I think we need to talk about is we want you to have a college experience. All of us went to college and we are here because we loved college. This is why we do what we do, but you have to be smart too, whether it's with drinking or, sexual behaviors or the COVID, you can't just go about doing things willy-nilly. So that's the thing I've been seeing is students just really struggling with the unknown and, how do we plan? How do we, and things have been changed on me. How do I deal with it? So.
I think that's a really good point too. Something that I've noticed is people are having to relearn how to live in the world in this different way, and finding a new normal has been really challenging. And so I think part of that is exploring what that means, because, when you think about coming to college in general, traditionally it's an exploration on its own, right? Like you're learning about yourself, you're learning about things you're most interested in, putting your career ahead of you, all of those exciting things. But the way in which we do it now, at least this year, looks a lot different than it did in previous years. And so it's really multifaceted and a little bit more complex than previous years.
And if you can't tell, we're counselors, so we can fill up all the time with our voices. One last thing I would say is, I had a student the other day commenting, she's a senior, and I'm mad because all the traditions that I was going to finalize with, I don't get to do. And my comment to her was, and I challenged the students to think about this is, where did traditions come from? Somebody one day said, let's do something, or they tried something, they went, this is kind of cool. And hers was about the garters. And she said, well, maybe I should go talk to the bars about, I don't want to come to your bar, but if I bought a gift card, could I get the garter for the gift card and I'll redeem the card someday other time? And I said, what bar owner wouldn't say sure? And I said, how many gift cards never get redeemed? And she said, many. I said, you don't think the bar owners would be thrilled to sell you gift cards that are never going to get redeemed and give you a garter? I said, what a great way to start a new tradition. And and she's part of a campus organization. So I think as students, you guys are here at School of Mines. You are smart, bright people. I think you can get trapped in old thinking. Think about what you can do different. You know, how can we do things that are going to be safer and better and create a new tradition? You know, we're hoping this becomes a tradition where we can answer your questions and do things, but you got to try something. So safely.
That's the key.
One thing I would like to add too is that, I mean, in larger groups like this, it's more difficult to do, and I have my video turned off most of the time. But when you're meeting with someone one-on-one or in a small group of, say, 5 or less, it's always really nice to have your video turned on so you can see each other and connect. That, I mean, even though you're not physically connecting in the same room, I think it's important to see each other's faces and to see expressions and everything. Just because I know that we run into that with the student who we were concerned about, and we really insisted that that student turn on the camera, and we were correct in doing so, because then we were even more concerned. But I mean, it's just something that it's nice to see people's faces. It makes you feel a little more connected, I think. Like I said, in larger groups, it takes up too much bandwidth, but and it's a little easier when you're in a group like this to have that. Excuse me. But when you're in the more personal settings, or even in the group settings that it's a small group, please turn your video on so people can see you.
I think that's a really good point, because right now, you know, before all of this happened, we were able to, you know, open the door for one another and share a smile, and maybe, you know, some of those smaller things we might have taken for granted now are becoming the most essential in terms of connection. And so little things like turning your video on when you're having a conversation can really go a long way. You know, the way in which we find connection looks a lot different now, and we have to be much more intentional about it than we did prior to all this happening.
What other questions do people have? And again, maybe like Chelsea said, if, you know, from the staff, if there's been questions you've had, it would be a good time to just get them out there so we can, if nothing else, pique some curiosity about questions. So
sure.
So when I do presentations though and talks, I assume I've baffled you with my brilliance, or you just don't care anymore. I'm going to go with baffled you with our brilliance.
I'm curious for you guys what you've seen students struggle with the most since you're working with students. What has come up most often? Because, you know, people might not be asking questions, but they're curious what's going on. You know, I think faculty and staff are dealing with it in a different way, but we're all facing it together. And so I'm just curious, you know, what have you noticed the most that's been the most challenging for students you're working with?
So I can jump in, and I'm gonna talk both from a university standpoint, but also I am from a mom standpoint, because I dropped my oldest child off at college a few weeks ago, and so I can talk from, you know, the interesting experience of being not me being a freshman, but from the standpoint of my freshman in college. I think that students are just, I think that for everybody, honestly, not even just students, it's just the unknowns of the future, that we're living in a world where we might not be doing the same thing next week or tomorrow, or that something could change, or we think we're going to do something and then it could change really quickly. And so I think that that's probably the most, I don't want to say frustrating thing, but that's a challenge, especially when you've had a lot of certainty in your life. And I think that going to college there's a lot of uncertainty anyway in transitioning from high school to college. The class of 2020 for seniors, that was a really difficult time. There's a lot of things that you had to miss out on. If you were an athlete, you probably didn't get to compete, you know, in your last season. You didn't get to walk in graduation. You maybe didn't even have a graduation party. Maybe you didn't even work a summer job when you were planning to. And so I think that we just need to take this in stride and make sure that we can all adapt and be very flexible and adaptable. And of course, I know that others and I have talked about how that's a skill that can translate really well to the real world. But when you're in it, I think that it's just kind of tough to not know what the future holds and how many of those traditions and experiences are you really going to be able to have as a student. And so as an institution, it's very important for us to be able to provide as much of a semblance of that experience as possible.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that speaks to a lot of people's underlying concerns is we're having to come together, but we're not always really sure what that means exactly at this very moment. So, we're just kind of riding the wave is what I usually say when we're just going through, we're not sure what we're going through, but we're going through it, that kind of thing. And, I think right now taking care of one another and practicing compassion to one another is really, really important because I think everybody's struggling in different ways right now. It's a complete change from what our norm looked like prior to this. And so we're really forced to kind of sit with uncomfortable feelings. We're forced to approach the world in a different way. And so being really kind to ourselves and practicing really good self-care is another element of that. And maybe that's just the counselor in me, but practicing really good self-care during this time is also really critical for us as a unit and as a university to get through this.
And D-Man, maybe you can address this a little bit. I've had some students, who have been concerned about other students not wearing masks and, what do we do and how do we handle that? And I know the president sent some stuff out, but I don't know if you want to chat a little bit about that. I know as a staff person, I've already had to talk to a student about not wearing a mask and, but maybe you can chat a little bit about what students should do if they're concerned.
Sure, and I'll call on Bryce too, because he has a good handle on masks, especially in the residence halls and that sort of thing. But it is a Board of Regents policy at this point. We are in what we're calling a level 3. And I just go back to the Rocker Pledge, take care of self, take care of others, and protect the Rocker community. And the mask is a big part of that. It's one way for us to help reduce the spread. And for this first month of school, it is a Board of Regents policy. And so the protocol is if you see someone not wearing a mask, please remind them to put on a mask. I got caught the other day. I went down to the restroom with my mask on. I took it off. I brushed my teeth. And when I came back out of the bathroom, I didn't have my mask on and I got caught. And so it's, but that reminder, those things happen. And then, but if it's habitual, and if it's a student that's not taking it seriously, then please report it through the Student Code of Conduct, through the advocate system. And if it's a faculty staff person that you have concern about and they're not putting their mask on when you remind them, then you report that to Human Resources. And Bryce, is there anything you'd like to add about masks?
Yeah, it's community living and it's a community. And so whenever we're dealing with community issues, we need to find how this becomes personal for me. And we all kind of know in like a moral and ethical development, do you stop at a stop sign when there's no one around? And whatever your answer is for that is where a student's development is in that response about whether or not we should be wearing a face covering. And what we're doing as RAs, as residence life staff, we're talking one-on-one, saying how do we get you from here to here, because this is a community issue. And here's the reasons why we see this as a policy, but who are you masking up for? I know the people who are around you are masking up for these people, but who are you masking up for? And if it's not for yourself, can it be for the custodian who's going home and has a small child? Can it be for the person 3 doors down who is going through chemotherapy? You don't know what their experience is, but the reasons why we're doing something is to protect everybody. And I will take 942 hours out of my day to have that conversation with every single resident, because I think it's that important. And so that's why it's serious. And that's how I'm approaching it, at least.
I appreciate that, Bryce. I will say this, Dean Mann, that the same person who caught you caught me right before that, not wearing my mask. So we won't put that person on the spot. But yeah, I walked out of my office and I went, oh crap, I forgot my mask. And I think that's just it. And Bryce, I think you hit it well. As you know, it hit me yesterday of, you know, how would I say this to somebody? And you know, what, this is my right. And you know, we all have rights. They end at other people's noses. And we also have the right to walk around naked in our house, but we don't do that out on the street. There are things that we do in public that we don't do at home. And so I think as a student and as a part of any community, that's the piece you really have to think about is, I have rights, but I also have responsibilities. And I think as Americans, sometimes we miss that responsibility piece, that part that we are part of a large community. And in this case, you know, the enemy is something we can't even see and don't even know exists. And we could be sick for weeks. And there's even questions about super carriers that could never be sick, but they're carrying the disease. So Bryce, I really love that, you know, that idea of who are you masking up for? Who are you taking care of? So.
Sure. Yeah, I think those are really great points too. I mean, we're having to take extra precautions, but when there's a purpose behind it that's a bit more selfless, it's a lot easier to do. Like to go, wow, you know, I'm taking care of my next door neighbor's brother's XYZ, whoever it is. But if you've got a purpose behind what you're doing, it feels a lot more meaningful. And I really think that generally Minds has really come together as a community and done quite a good job of really trying to take care of one another during this time. And I really like how candid you guys were about, oh, I walked out and I didn't have my mask on. It just really highlights how we're all human and this is really an adjustment for all of us right now. And so I think even in that, like just practicing compassion to one another and understanding that there's a learning curve to it. And this isn't natural, but we're trying to make it work so that we can live our lives as close to normal as possible.
In the counseling world, we work on the 50-minute hour, and I see we're coming up on the 50th minute hour of the hour. I want to open up, just anybody else has questions, any comments maybe from the staff people, things we maybe missed you could think of. We're recording this. We're going to have it available for, you know, students and parents on our website if they want to look at it. Our hope is, and I know Amanda commented upon us putting this together. I want to compliment Chelsea. She was the driving force of getting most of this done. And so I really thank her. You know, she's been a great addition to the counseling office and going to be, you know, something we can really use in the future to be more active. My goal as a director, and it was very clear in my interview, was how is counseling going to get out of the office? How are they going to be more active in the community? And this is one of our ways of doing that. So this will be available, but if there's any closing comments, thoughts people have, or just sage words you want for posterity on tape, this would be the time to do that. So.
One more thing, just quickly, I would like to add is the Counseling Center recently created a Facebook page. And so since we're going to be posting this, I'd also like people to know, you know, you can follow us on Facebook for kind of what we're doing in the community, whether it's the campus community or outreach, things like that. And also like healthy tips and tricks and things like that to keep the campus a bit healthier. And there's a way to get a hold of us through that, to connect with us via email. And that's the best way to make appointments with us, or, you know, you can pop your head in or give us a call too. But I would encourage you to follow us there for more events like this and, you know, just other ways that we're trying to stay connected.
Chelsea, could you talk just briefly about the campaigns that we're kind of doing and what they're going to be?
Yeah.
I'm not putting you on the spot, but.
No, that's okay. So right now we're working on a healthy relationships campaign. That's been our main focus. And so we are trying to do some outreach in multiple different ways, whether it's, you know, flyers on the sidewalks, bulletin boards. We're doing outreach through kind of a virtual way using the screens and Surbec, that kind of thing. We also are running things through our Facebook page, working with the main marketing team to advertise through that platform and, you know, use their Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, that kind of thing. And we're all, what's that?
What is the next campaign? I can't think of it real quick.
Oh, it's Healthy Habits. Healthy Habits is our next campaign. And so we're running them about a month long. And so as of now, we're going to have a Know While You Go flyer in the bathroom so people can, you know, when they're in there, they can see tips, tricks, ways to get a hold of us, just helpful wellness information to kind of create a space for people to see that information in multiple ways. And that's the goal. So Healthy Habits is the next campaign, and that'll be running about a month long as well. So we're kind of trying it out for the first time, but it's going really well. And I think that everyone has been working together quite well to make this really happen for us this fall. Are there any other thoughts, questions, concerns, things you would like to have covered before we wrap up today?
I was just wondering real quick if maybe Jess from in Monument, if there's anything you guys wanted to share about just COVID in general, or things that you'd like the students to know, maybe, you know, as they go through their weeks and stuff. So.
You know, really overall, the biggest thing is that cases are on the rise, not just in the city, but surrounding region in general. And so while as a state they're going down, this side of the region is definitely climbing pretty quickly. So we're just reinforcing social distancing outside of, you know, environments of work or school, those kind of things, making sure that people are masking, and then just trying to take care of those that are ending up in the positive range. But overall, can't stress enough just to have them call us with questions, and that testing happens when they're symptomatic. So those are probably the biggest things that we're reiterating with students right now.
Thank you. I actually had one pop in as well. It was, are there financial supports for students during this time aside from financial aid?
Financial aid is a big area for that. And then if there's more CARES money coming, that will be sure, and that information will get out to students.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys all. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. I just want to say that the CARES Act, just if there's any international students on here, the CARES money does not go for international students. They are not allowed to receive that.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming. I know this was our first run at this, and, you know, the first time you do something, it's always a little awkward, and you're never sure who's going to come. I felt like it was a good first start. I think we'll be looking at doing these in the future. I think on a campus, college campus in general, there's a lot that happens. There's a lot of things that go on. And, you know, Chelsea and I and Bryce and some of those of us in the counseling office, you know, keep reminding ourselves that, you know, you guys are young adults, but, you know, you're still young adults. And so we need to be there to give you the, you know, the information you need to make good decisions. We need to be there. You know, Chelsea and I were talking today in our supervision that, you know, sometimes as counselors, we have multiple roles, from, you know, mentor to advisor to, you know, the person who says, hey, does that really make sense? Because it sounds kind of stupid to us. You know, that's what it's here for. And on a college campus, we want to make sure we give you that opportunity to ask information. Again, I think any one of the people on the call today would tell you, you know, I wish I'd have had some additional people when I was in college to go ask questions of. You know, there was a lot of just wandering around trying to figure it out for ourselves. So we want to be here for you. We will plan on doing one again in a few weeks. And we thank you guys for coming in, and thank the staff for you guys for taking part. So
yeah,
Chelsea,
thank you
anything else
guys. No, I don't think so. You kind of covered it. I really do want to thank you guys for coming together for this. It really means a lot. And I think if we, you know, keep down this path together, we can really do a good job of informing our students and just kind of creating that community of support. So thank you guys.
Thank you all.
Bye.